live anywhere.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see so many people here this morning. How fun. All right, we are going to kick it off with, oh wait, and let's see if we have guests up here. We do, Faith is back visiting us. And Reg is here all the way from Florida or Georgia or something.
Georgia.
Down south.
Morning, Red.
Morning.
And we do have a couple other guests here, but I'm going to let Vince introduce them. Yeah, that's everyone. Okay, I'm gonna start it off with a Rotary Minute from Dan.
Well, normally I start off with a joke, but not today. So there's a lot of things going on in the
Into it.
world here recently. One of which is that our administration has decided to withdraw from the World Health Organization. So that's been an important partner with Rotary in the battle against polio. Wanted to just read you what Rotary's response is to that and encourage us all to continue to work no matter what the challenges are that we face. Rotary notes the recent announcement that the U.S. intends to withdraw from the World Health Organization, a partner in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, that's GPEI. We, as Rotary, remain resolute in our mission to eradicate polio. As a founding member of the GPEI, Rotary has for decades worked closely with all partners, the U.S. government and other governments, to end polio worldwide. This effort has reduced the number of children paralyzed by polio by 99.9% since 1988. The global effort to eradicate polio has innovated many times over the years to come close to protecting every life. So there's more to Rotary's statement, but just a reminder and important message to all of us as Rotarians that no matter what the challenges that we face with different governments around the world, including our own, we need to continue our battle. Pardon me. And there's a little bit more in there about how Rotary tends to go forward, but we will continue our battle against polio. And our mission and our hope is that we'll eradicate it as smallpox was. So, okay, that's it for today. No joke. Thank you.
The fun part, Dan. All right, I will hand it over to Vince to introduce our speaker. And I don't know if your partner is contributing or if he's just here, but okay, so I should introduce Evan then. Who came with our speaker. Thanks for being here.
Hi, you're welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
So welcome to the third in a series of 4 speakers to discuss their charitable organizations, along with the grants that they receive from our club. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, MaryJoy Patchett, is Program Director of the Richmond Food Shelf and Thrift Shop, and she'll be discussing feeding our neighbors in need and also a progress update on the Rotary Grant given to the Richmond Food Shelf last spring. As a reminder, the grant we awarded the Williston-Richmond Shelf was for the Got Milk program, providing milk and cheese to those in need. MaryJoy has been at the food shelf since November 2023, and in her current position since April 2024, after founding director Marcia Levison retired. MJ, I call her MJ, spent her adolescence and young adulthood entrenched in the music scene, studying saxophone at the New England Conservatory, and then working as a professional musician and music educator for about a decade. MJ has been drawn to working with vulnerable, unserved communities. She co-founded and directed the Manna Choir, which was a singing group comprised of unhoused folks in Boston. MJ also worked for the Sonido Musica program in Springfield, Mass, where she helped establish band and choir programs in underserved public schools. MJ moved to Vermont in 2020 at the start of the pandemic, where she worked as an EMT and medical assistant for a number of years before ultimately deciding that the health career was not for her. Another passion of MJ's is food, especially ice cream. She made ice cream for the Scoop in Shelburne from 2021 to 2023. But she felt the call to serve others and was thrilled to take on the program manager position at the food shelf. It's been busy and interesting for her to learn about food access, local food systems, and nonprofit management. MJ completed her certificate in nonprofit management in January 2025 and is excited to implement these skills in her role at the food shelf. So I bring up MaryJoy.
Good morning.
Thanks.
How's everybody doing? All right. So I work at the Richmond Food Shelf and Thrift Store. As Vince said, it's been a bit of a winding path for me, and but I'm happy where I am. So we can go to the next one. I'll start with our mission statement at the food shelf. We're right on Bridge Street in Richmond, right in the village, and our mission is to improve the lives of individuals and families in the community who are experiencing financial hardship. And we distribute food to those in need. There's no membership fee, proof of income. And then we also sell affordable clothing. The Richmond Food Shelf has been around for quite some time. It's been a 501c3 since 2009. Marcia Levison, Richmond resident, established it as a 501c3. Before that, it was, you might remember, the Miscellany Mart, run by a bunch of folks from the Congregational Church. And Marcia, her story is that she just kind of walked in there one day and was kind of seeking a new path herself. And she was like, how can I help? And all the volunteers were like, we're so tired. And she left with the key, and it was kind of, that was that. And she kind of took over. And she helped establish the official nonprofit status, and they changed the name to kind of reflect more of what we're doing, and also became a network partner of the Vermont Food Bank. And they've remained open this whole time. We've decreased our hours since COVID. Hopefully at the point we'll be increasing those. Kind of already heard a little bit about me from Vince. And I've been working in this position since the spring, since Marcia retired, and have a varied background in music and medical and food. Just to answer some basic questions, which a lot of folks don't know. I was unsure about these things. What is a food shelf? So there's kind of different tiers. There's Feeding America, which is the federal level food access program. And that kind of helps fund the food bank. Every state has a food bank, which is more of like a distribution hub, and offers numerous programs. But you don't actually go to the food bank to get food personally. They distribute all the foods to the food shelves, food pantries, and meal sites. Food pantry is just a place where you can get non-perishable food. And a food shelf has all the things of a food pantry, plus things like fresh produce, dairy, meat. And then meal sites can be anything, like if there is a meal program here, for instance. I don't know that there is in a church. They could get food donated from the food bank, or things like Meals on Wheels. The food that they get cans, at least some of it is probably from the food bank. We are a nonprofit, so we're primarily volunteer run. I'm the only staff member, and we have a board of 5 folks that I work with. And some numbers from 2024. We average about 78 visits per month, and that's serving around 60 households per month. And we give around $50 in groceries every visit. And the milk we distribute every month is 78 gallons. Average. We don't distribute the milk. Part of the program that the Rotary has supported is the Scott Milk program. We have a coupons that we give out. We give out 2 coupons to every food shelf family that comes in. And they can take that coupon and walk right down the road or whatever, drive to the Richmond market, and they go to the checkout with their milk, a gallon for each coupon, and they just hand over the coupon instead of paying for the milk, and we get a bill at the end of the month that we pay. Where do we get our food? The vast majority of the food that we distribute is purchased using our own money, and we buy a large amount of that food just from the market. We have a relationship with them. They give us a discount where we can buy bulk amounts of foods that are on sale. I strive to buy a lot of locally produced foods. We buy CSAs. We do get a little bit of grant funding from the food bank to a grant called Vermonters Feeding Vermonters, which is to support local farmers. So we buy food from Jericho Settlers Farm. We have a relationship with BYCC in Richmond. And we also sometimes, with that grant, we bought like local maple syrup, which is really wonderful for our food shelf customers. And then this is actually a recent change. We're not working with Monument Farms anymore to get our dairy delivery. There's a few things that happened, but now we're working with our local farms in Richmond, right on Huntington Road, to get our eggs, because they're actually offered them cheaper than Monument Farms. And then just probably about a quarter of our food comes from the food bank, which is a lot of different kinds of food. They do produce drop-offs once a month, where we go and pick up food. All the food shelves kind of gather in South Burlington, and pick up huge bulk amounts of produce that are either purchased or donated from farms. We get donated food from the food bank, and we get salvaged food, like things that the grocery store can't sell because they're damaged. And then we also buy food from the food bank. The food bank kind of gets very low cost, non-perishable food that we purchase. It's usually off-brand kind of stuff. And just a very tiny amount of the food that we get is donated from the community. Why do people go to the food shelf? We serve anybody that walks in the door. We don't limit to where they live. There's a lot of reasons for that, but we just want to increase access to everybody. And it's a lot of families, a lot of young families, elderly folks, people living on disability. There's a small amount of unhoused families. We don't serve a lot of unhoused folks in Richmond. Our food shelf is not accessible by any kind of public transport. And then we have a lot of new American folks coming in. Food prices have increased a lot, as you know, I'm sure. And SNAP, which is 3 Squares Vermont, is the name for SNAP in Vermont. It's the same thing, which is like an EBT card that you can use to buy groceries. It's an extremely low eligibility limit that I think, don't quote me on this, but I think for a single person household, if you're making more than like $2,200 a month gross income, you're not eligible. And even if you're like slightly under that, you might just get like a benefit of $30 a month. So it's in the max, I think for one person is maybe $300 a month, which still doesn't really cover all your groceries. And then if you're over that limit, you get nothing. So it's what they call the benefits cliff. So there's no like kind of tapering into getting support. So there's a huge number of folks that are just make a little bit too much money to qualify for any kind of benefit, but not nearly enough to cover all their expenses for the month. And obviously for over the last several years, the cost of living has increased a lot. Folks have debt. There's many reasons. We don't really ask at our food shelf. We don't ask about their income or why they need to get food. We just, if they're there, they need food and we give it to them. So for cost, we spend about $4,500 a month average on food and just about around $400 a month for milk, which has been wonderful that we got support this past year. We received a $1,000 grant from the Rotary to go towards our milk program, Got Milk. And so that was very supportive for several months, and we continue on giving folks milk. And how do we pay for all the food that we buy? The majority is through individual donations from the community, and we do receive a small amount of grants from places like the Rotary and the food bank. And other local businesses. And then we do have the thrift store, which probably gives us about 25% of our revenue. And so the clothes are donated to the thrift store and sold, and that money can go directly into the food shelf. And if you want to support the food shelf, there are many ways to do that. The most direct way is financial support. We love receiving donations of things like food and clothing. Those are helpful, but things like milk, fresh foods, produce, meat, cheese, it's hard to donate those things, and the need is ebbs and flows. It's hard to respond quickly to the need. So really having a financial base where we can just purchase what's needed for the folks that are coming in is the best way. We do take donations of food that is non-perishable, not expired. In the summer, when there's an abundance of everybody's gardens are overflowing, we do take some produce. It just has to be in good shape. No giant zucchinis, please. Thank you. And then if you want to donate clothing to the thrift store, we do take all kinds of clothing in clean shape, no stains or anything. And then if you do want to donate your time, we do take on volunteers, so you can reach out. And here's my contact information. It's also on the website if you want to reach out. And I think that's about it.
Where on Bridge Street is the thrift store?
We're at 58 Bridge Street. It's just a few doors down from Sweet Simone's, the bakery. Yeah, so we're on the end of that line of shops, right when you turn on Bridge Street. Yeah. We're open 8 hours a week, which doesn't sound like a lot, but compared to a lot of other food shelves, we're open a bit more. So we're open on Tuesdays from 10 to 1, Thursdays 4 to 6, and Saturdays from 10 to 1. There are many food shelves in the area that are open, once a month or twice a month, and it's hard to get there. Any questions?
I want to
Yes.
So just wondering how the federal spending freeze kind of impacts you. It sounds like your money is kind of being funneled down and you're not getting directly from the federal government or
No, we don't. We're just a little food shelf. I think the place that will be impacted is the food bank, because they do receive federal funding for sure, and it's not, their funding is not directly going to individuals. I mean, it's such an unknown what is gonna happen now. But we are fortunate at our food shelf that the majority of our income is from the community and individual donations. We don't directly receive any federal funding. Yes, Sally?
Do you have perishable food and do you have refrigeration?
Yes. Yeah, as a food shelf, we offer fresh produce. We have cheese, we have frozen meat, frozen bread. And I just very recently received a grant to improve our refrigeration, because we had we used to have two like household sized fridge freezers, and then we have a couple of larger freezers, and one of the fridges died the end of last month, and I just received a grant to kind of get a big commercial glass stored fridge, which I'm very excited about. It's going to increase the amount that we can store. The number one thing that we run out of almost every shift is fresh produce. And also things like, we do serve yogurt and cottage cheese, but those things go really quickly. So it'll be great to have more storage so we can get more produce. What folks really want, and as I would imagine many of you in this room, when you go to the grocery store, you want fresh food. You don't really want a can of peas.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
And the thrift store, is it just clothes or other household items?
Great question. Our thrift store is just clothing and jewelry, or, accessories for clothing. But we do have men's, women's, kids, all people. Yeah.
Do you have a relationship with Richmond Market where you can get perishable food from them?
We don't get donations from Richmond Market generally. This is a bigger, I've been trying to get donations from them, and it's a kind of a more complicated bureaucratic thing with the AGS, the company that owns Richmond Market, needs to kind of approve process, which I'm actually working with. The food bank has a program called Fresh Rescue, and they work with Hannaford and Shaw's and Trader Joe's, and I know Sally, who is at the Williston food shelf, probably gets food from Hannaford and things like that. And it just creates kind of Fresh Rescue creates official processes for the grocery store or guidelines to follow for food that they can't really sell, but is still good to eat, and they'll donate it to local food shelves in the area. And for whatever reason, Richmond so far has not really participated much in that program, but I'm starting to, and it's been hard to get the Richmond Market online with that, but hopefully soon.
It benefits them because they don't have to then go through the expense of getting rid of or composting this produce and the meats and things that they can't sell anymore.
Exactly, yeah, it lowers the waste for them and cost of composting, all that stuff, and it's also a tax write-off for them. And it generally can be good for us, yeah.
Any other questions? Anyone?
I have one.
Yes,
Is working with restaurants not a thing? Is it not practical?
um. There have been occasions where we worked with restaurants. It's been a random, in my experience, it's been inconsistent. I think in other places, maybe in cities that are there's more people, it's a little easier to get donations from restaurants. We do work with the Richmond Community Kitchen, which is kind of across the street from us. If you're not familiar, it's like a place you can go to. They make prefab frozen meals like enchiladas and soup. They can walk in and just grab and go. And they kindly, like all the tips that you give at the Richmond Community Kitchen, they pool all their tips and they make little gift cards for us for $25 and that we can hand out to our food shelf customers, which is a really great thing. But they just did that out of the kindness of their hearts. Like we didn't formally, form a relationship. But having those kinds of like convenience foods are excellent for a lot of these families that are working and under a lot of stress, and it's a great resource. Anything else?
Thank you. So, for speaking with us, we give a donation to the Williston School Mentoring Program in your name. Second thing is, which I think you already know about it and most of the club already knows about it. You were also given a district grant, for
Yes.
the
Yeah.
gout milk. Here is your check.
Oh, thank you.
And the third duty is to pick a winning number.
Oh, this is thrilling. How much was the check for, Vincent?
Oh, $1,000.
Very generous.
The last three digits.
170.
Could be me, could be me.
Carried? Okay. Thank you very much.
Did I give you?
Thank you so much for being here and speaking to us today, and so glad we can support the Richmond Food Shelf. All right, next, where did Pastor Paul go? Oh, there he is. We have an inspiration from Pastor Paul. Disappeared just at the right time.
Well, before I get to the inspiring part, I'll start with the disheartening part. Of course, many of you have been asking about the fate of the family of our Afghan refugee, Arya, who a year ago this month spoke this group. And of course, had left Afghanistan when the Taliban took over in August 2021 and had to leave his family, his wife and 3 children behind. And we've been working assiduously. Many of you, of course, signed a petition that was sent to our congressional leaders who also worked diligently on behalf of Arya's family. As it happened, you may be aware that on January 13th, they were scheduled, and in fact, the family underwent the required interview with officials, U.S. government officials in order to get a visa. That visa was granted at the last hour or last days. The complicating factor, as it turned out, was that an exit visa was needed from the Pakistani government. This is an Afghan family that had traveled to Pakistan because there's not a U.S. embassy in Afghanistan anymore after the Taliban took over. So they were in Pakistan to connect with the U.S. embassy there. Pakistan requires an exit visa, which was not, that exit visa expired. And so the inauguration happened. The walls came not tumbling down, but went sky high to preclude, of course, the arrival of new Americans. In fact, as one refugee resettlement expert put on PBS NewsHour last night, there's really no lawful way of entry for those seeking refuge in this country now. So with that very disheartening news, we may be looking for glimmers of silver linings wherever we can see them. And so let me share a couple of those with you. We just heard Dan Clark share the Rotary Minute moments ago. Dan is also an active member in this congregation, Williston-Richmond Church. He serves as chair of our trustees, which means for the last many months, he and a team of volunteers have been working very, very hard in the building right behind us. This belongs to the church. We call it the Mace House, this yellow building right over there. Again, that building that has two rental units in place, getting that building set so they could receive some new residents. One family, Congolese refugees, moved in at the beginning of January. And if you've been following the news at all, you're aware of why that Congolese family would be here in the United States. Some of whom arrived just in December. And from our congregation, we've been working very hard to provide a sense of welcome to this wonderful family of new neighbors next door to us. The other apartment unit we have waiting for another Afghan family, one that arrived in the United States just in November. They have been in a processing center out in New Mexico and we're scheduled to come here, literally here in next month, early February. There have been some events on the national scene that you might be aware of that have impacts here. So for this Afghan family that is scheduled to relocate right next door, the coordinating agency, and you're probably aware that when the refugees are resettled, there's typically a coordinating agency for this family. It was the Afghan Alliance here in Vermont whose existence or at least funding is now in jeopardy with the funding freeze. Now, at this point, of course, who knows where the funding freeze stands? There was the Office of Management Budget memo that was issued earlier this week that said that funding freeze was in place, and that memo was rescinded yesterday, but then the White House press secretary says, no, the executive orders are still in place. There's at least one federal judge who's issued an injunction, another federal judge who's poised to do so. Where that stands, I don't know. But in the midst of that uncertainty, the lay leadership, some of the lay leadership of this congregation and I met on Tuesday evening. We were informed significantly by all the work that in fact Dan Clark has done. He's been in the forefront of our efforts to prepare for this Afghan family. And at this meeting, this emergency gathering of some of the lay leadership of Wilson Federated Church on Tuesday evening, we, at that point, the federal freeze memo was still in effect. And so we were faced with the question, even without the infrastructure and support that a coordinating agency like the Afghan Alliance will provide, are we still ready to welcome these visitors, these new Americans from Afghanistan to our property and provide them with all the support that they would need? To that question, heads were nodding around the room, and someone spoke up, not a Rotarian, someone spoke up and said, but we know that in this community, there are others who'll step forward to help us as well. And the one organization that was mentioned, was this one, this Rotary Club. So I want you to know the kind of reputation that this club has and the type of impact this club has had and the kind of impact we may be poised to have right next door in the months and even the years ahead. I've said it before, I've heard some of you say it before, when Williston Federated Church and the Williston-Richmond Rotary Club work together, amazing things happen. And it looks like that opportunity may be available to us once more.
Thank you so much. All right, with that, I didn't have anyone reach out to give announcements today, but I'm guessing we have some Story Slam updates, cause it's happening in 9 days. Well, I wasn't necessarily looking at you, but I can if you have things. I know one of my questions, Sherry, was about the food for the Story Slam. What are we doing? And what kind of stuff do you want? Elena wants to know what to make.
Well, I love cookies. So there is a list.
Could you just tell what the story slam is for our guests?
Sure. So there's a, do you know, if you know Moth Radio Hour, it's
Mhm.
like it's a story slam. People get up, tell a 5-minute story, and we have judges. Our judges the theme is magic. One of the judges is a magician. So that's pretty cool. And then Helen Weston and Bill Schubart. So really 3 awesome judges. And it's February 8th from 3 to 5 at the Williston Central School. We will be having just some, last year it was an evening event and we had a lot of food. This year we're gonna pretty much stick to finger foods, cookies. I think Ellie's hopefully gonna do some finger sandwiches, but nothing over the top. I do have a list that I will get out to people, just of things that people have already committed to making, so that we just don't have duplicates. So I just don't have it all right here. And there's hopefully, we don't know how well Rick is feeling, but he was going to be our guy in charge of the lighting and the sound. But I am working a little bit on a backup plan in case Rick isn't feeling well enough to be there. And I hope you are, Rick, but just so you know, I am working on communicating with Helen Weston's helping a lot. Because of course, being in the drama world that she's in, she knows people that knows all the lighting and how to do everything at the school. So she's gonna be a big help. Ticket sales, I'm not sure where we're at yet. And how many,
Yeah,
Lisa?
ticket sales actually are kind of lagging expectations. We've sold 44 online, and then we've got another, 24 here from Rotary members. So,
Yeah, so I did hear in per Susan's suggestion, we reached out to Helen Weston because she, of course, has a wide network of people that enjoy this sort of thing. And she is going to broadcast an email out to her world. And so hopefully we'll get a lot of ticket sales from that. And then also, Susan, the 7 days.
7 days is going to feature. Mike's open here.
yeah.
7 days is gonna feature our event in their event calendar in the print edition next week, including a photo. I provided a photo from last year's event. I'm not sure which of you is gonna be in that photo, but anyway, that will be some nice last minute visibility that a lot of people will see. And the auditorium has 326 seats. So, ideally, it'd be awesome at $20 a ticket if we could really try to get a push out there. And wouldn't it be great if we sold 200 tickets? So everyone, I know that Lisa did a big push for people to broadcast on Facebook. But in any way, if you can even just find 2 people that you know and try to encourage them to get tickets, then that's just gonna give us a boost. So anything, everybody, whatever you can do, because this could be a big moneymaker for us and to be able to help people. Oh, so the money that we raise for this event goes to helping people, locals with heating assistance. So, any questions on the slam? Leslie?
Not a question, but kudos to you for all of the work that you have jumped into.
Oh, thank you. It's not without a lot of help. Yeah. So, of course, Rafa is the chair for this year, but she had some traveling that she was doing, and there were just a lot of things that had to be done regardless. So, everyone's been jumping in and helping, so I totally appreciate it.
Especially you.
Charge on.
Thanks, Sherry. I invited all my local Facebook friends. I don't know if you know how to invite someone to an event on Facebook, but I got a really good response from that. So hopefully those are some of your ticket sales. You can do that too. I know a lot of you are on Facebook and know how to find the event. And if you look at it, you'll see a little button where you can press invite and it'll give you a list of all your friends. So invite everyone, keep talking about it. And I'm sure Sherry will keep us updated on how we can help. But I'm guessing there's lots of things to do.
We
So-
need people to tell stories.
We need people to tell
We can't have a
stories.
story without stories.
Sorry.
One of our plants, Steve Shepherd's not gonna be able to make it. So far, I only know that Ellie is going to tell a story. So far, we're gonna have a story slam with one story that we know of.
So,
We need backups in case so there might be time for, say, let's just say 8 or 10 storytellers. We don't know who from the public is going to come and prepare to tell a story. So we need to just at least have backup from you guys.
yeah, so for those of you who couldn't hear that, we need you to be creating stories and inviting people who will tell stories. When I'm inviting people, I'm saying, and you prepare a story, a 5-minute story about magic. Because we need to have people who are going to tell stories if we're having a story slam. And it's nice to have some backup people who are in the audience that we know have stories that we can pick on because we have 2 hours of stories to fill. You know, you've all had some magic in your lives. All right, anything else, Sherry?
I was just gonna say our magician has agreed to do a magic show, like 5 minutes. Keeping in mind that it's adults primarily that will be there. And that I told him he has a microphone, that's it. But there's that, and also, one of Bill Skiff's daughters, Nan, is going to come, speak, on his behalf for, say 5 minutes.
So we have a magic show and we have one of Bill Skiff's daughters coming to speak. So we have some things happening. It's gonna be really fun. Create your stories. I have a couple little ones, but I'm gonna be the MC, so they're just kind of filling in space. Anyway, any questions about the Story Slam or anything else? All right, can't wait to see you all there. Here you go, Chris.
All right.